So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the PCV hoses. They're just air lines. So you'll want some needle nose pliers. Basically you just pinch it right here and just kind of wiggle it off. If it's stuck, you can use a screwdriver to pry it back. And then there's one right here as well. Next I'm going to be removing the coil packs. There's 4 of them. Make sure you know which one goes where, or that would screw up your timing. So let's go ahead and undo those. Alright, and with those 4 unbolted, you would usually be able to pull straight up on them. There's this back line that's in the way. There's a 10mm bolt here and one on this side as well to remove that. And just like that, it should lift up. Now with that slightly lifted up, we can undo the 4 coils. Just pull up and it'll suction. First thing I notice upon pulling out those coil packs is there does seem to be a little bit of oil on them. So that can usually mean the actual circle rings that's part of the gasket. Those could be a little bit bad or corroded, so maybe a tiny bit of oil is leaking into there or burning out or something. Alright, now we need to get all the bolts off. So there's one here. They're all 10mm. There's one here. There's one right here. There's one right here on the back. There's another one right here on the back in the middle. For this one, you're gonna need to use an extended 10mm because that one's kind of tall. There's one right here. There's a special clip with it. I'll show you that. There's one right here on the right side, right here. And one other thing to take note of is this piece right here. When you're lifting up on it and you remove that 10mm bolt, there's another little bracket you have to lift upward and off. And for this tall one, it's actually a 12mm. You need an extended so it'll slide over. It's kind of tight. There's a little washer on it, take note of that. Then you want to be careful. There's all this dust, debris, and oil chunks on top. You don't want the wind blowing that into the holes, so that'll be touching the top of the spark plug. And if you look down inside each one of those, can't see it very well unfortunately, but there's just tiny traces amount of oil along the walls, so the seals inside are definitely bad. Let's go ahead and loosen the 2 inner bolts. So there's 2 right up top between the coil packs, 10mm. Alright, with those 2 loosened, take note there's a little rubber washer gasket on each one of these inner bolts, and so we're going to need to replace those as well. And one other thing to take note of is this piece right here. When you're lifting up on it and you remove that 10mm bolt, there's another little bracket you have to lift upward and off. Alright, and on one other video, you said the strongest point to lift the gasket from, and it doesn't take much leverage at all, so be gentle. You wouldn't want to bend or break anything. I took a flathead screwdriver, a fatter one preferably. You kind of wedge it right here, you leverage it off this little hook. You can see that lifting just straight up. That we got the cover off. So here we can see the timing chain. You can see the gasket is totally out of place. It really doesn't look like it was leaking too much, but I still don't understand why there's all this excess oil surrounding the outside stuff. It seems fairly mushy, and it even looks like someone came and repaired it once again, because you see the gasket and then you see some excess RTV here, which that's what had scared me initially, but I guess they had just used that to hold it down in place. So we'll go ahead and just continue replacing it as normal. I don't know if these are in good condition. I mean, I don't see any sludge buildup. Obviously don't see any major scratches or chips, anything like that. Alright, now we'll go ahead and remove the old gasket. Now we want to clean the surface, so to do that, do not use anything stronger than aluminum. You don't want to be dinging up the aluminum as you dent it, so you can use like a towel or a plastic scraper or something like that. We want to clean off any of the gunk between it so it'll make a good seal. Alright, next we want to line up the gasket, the new gasket. So the way I do this, you can use the 3mm glue, or you can use just a little bit of RTV to kind of help it sit properly. But we're gonna run that along the edges a little bit, just a tiny bit, as well as each ring. Then we're gonna press the gasket firmly into place. All right, then with the gaskets lined in like that, I'm gonna add a little bit to each one of these seals and then push this down into place. All right, I'm gonna let that dry for about 20 minutes. What this does is when you're bolting down the gasket with that sealant or that glue in there, it makes it so it's not gonna pinch on you or turn as easy. And it's been about 15, so I'll give it another 5 minutes, let that dry. It also just helps keep the seal strong. All right, now that I've cleaned off most of the old RTV and all the old oil chunks that are built up, it's a fairly clean and flat surface, didn't nick anything. Now I can go ahead and reinstall the new one. All right, now I've got the new assembly. It's all cleaned up. We're gonna make sure there's no wires that are gonna get pinched when we slide it on. Go ahead and slide it on gently. The oil cap faces you. Then with that slid on place, you can tell it's right because these two bolts will line up that were already in here before. Then you want to check the whole perimeter of the line and make sure it's not kinked at all. And the next thing I'm going to do is just wipe off the excess oil from the coil pack. We're going to go ahead and do the bolts. According to forums and online, you go from the inside out. And our gasket kit came with the two that we need for the GT model, as you can see here. So those are going to go on the two inner bolts that go right here and right here. And if you look at the old gasket, it's pretty squashed, kind of ruined. So let's go ahead and replace that out. On the gasket itself, the more flat side is going to go on the bottom of the engine. And slide the new one on. And the engine block is made out of aluminum, so don't be over tightening anything or you're going to strip stuff. There, and for now those aren't very tight, and I'm going to do all the other ones hand tight first. And also make sure to slide this bracket back on. And remember this long weird bolt, it's going to go up top right here. Then the two small nuts go on each front side. On here. And on here. And the rest of the bolts are all the same size and length. They go in the rest of the holes around. Alright, now that they're all hand tightened, you want to do it from the inward out and almost in like a cross pattern. So I'll kind of do back, front, diagonal. Alright, now with all those tightened down, go ahead and put the coils back in. One thing to take note is if you took them off, make sure to put these rings or these rubber washers back on. That helps keep stuff out of there. And then the order does matter, is the lengths will line up, but like other cars with spark plug wires, they can get all tangled up. You don't know which is which. But this one, there's the rail that goes this way. It's still stuck in place, and these just plug into the corresponding holes. Alright, and with those four in, make sure to put the 4 10mm bolts. They all go in, one in each coil. And then there's two that held in this electrical rail. There's a little nut that goes on that side, and then there's a little bolt that kind of goes under here. And the nut that goes right here, it has a washer with it, so don't lose that. And then there's this other nut. Four that go into the coil packs, they're going to be all the same length. Lastly, you just want to check, make sure the seal still looks good. And a quick tip, it's kind of hard to see back there, so what you can do is you can take a video of it and just make sure the seal's still flat and look at it on your phone. But let's go ahead and attach the PCV hose. That one just slides on, and then you just pinch the clip to make it slide on. Alright, then we finally got that on. So now I'm just going to let it dry overnight. I'll start it up in the morning. I'll drive it kind of nice at first, then kind of rev it up, and hopefully there's no other leaks. I did clean the surface of it pretty well, so if it does start leaking, then I can identify that. Hope this helped. Thanks for watching. Peace.